Have you ever wondered what it was like to be a male concubine during the ancient time? In many ancient cultures, the elite members of society not only married wives, but also had concubines on the side, serving a dual purpose. First, to boost a man's prestige through a demonstration of his capacity to produce children, and of course, his limitless access to indulge in sexual desires. While most people think of China when the word concubine is mentioned, records show that the tradition of taking in concubines is spread worldwide. Many prominent figures in ancient Greece had one or maybe two concubines sitting close by. However, what makes this interesting is the fact that there is a huge number of male concubines in ancient Greece. Male concubines are not the exception, but often the norm. Sadly, behind the lavish life offered by their elite partners, an underlying dark secret surrounds these relationships. From slavery, abuse, and even death, was being a male concubine worth it? Let's find out. Welcome to Crazy Histories, where we bring you the craziest and weirdest facts from human history. Some of the things discussed in this video may be offensive or disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Male concubine in ancient Greece. As mentioned above, having concubines during ancient times was normal. Having concubines is a sign of status and dominance. The ancient Greeks don't mind love or compassion whenever they engage in this kind of relationship. What's more important is that they can take on the role of the dominant and never the submissive. That is why having one or more concubines despite being married is not considered shameful if they retain their dominance over the person. As a result, the most stigmatized of all were men who took on the woman role in the relationship. Because of this, the relationship is always between an older and younger male. This is where the term Pederasty enters. A lot of scholars were not fond of the idea. Pederasty is when an older man mentors young boys in exchange for sexual favors. Although views and customs varied greatly from city to city, this approach was still widely used throughout the nation. These young boys are called catamites. They are boys who were kept for homosexual practices. It was so widespread that Plato even claims that even Socrates liked the company of young masculine lovers in some of his intellectual conversations. However, social perceptions of it differed greatly from one place to the next. Relationships between boys and men were openly encouraged in some societies, such as Sparta, and were even institutionalized. On the other hand, it was not socially accepted in Athens, where the authorities passed legislation to do away with what was becoming increasingly seen as an old-fashioned, unnatural tradition. Specifically, in Athens, an adult male cannot willfully penetrate another male. However, this law is not absolute. There are loopholes. Despite this law, it was still generally accepted for a man to penetrate a boy. These catamites will also serve as entertainers in a nearby household, or even sexual partners for other men in the family. While I'm pretty sure this practice will be condemned by modern society, it was surprisingly accepted during ancient times. Keeping concubines is also a matter of money. That's one of the reasons why society never had a problem with their existence, since more often than not, these concubines are kept by influential people, tucked within the gates of their palace for them to indulge whenever they want. The stigma. While the ancient Greeks accepted the existence of male concubines, there was still a stigma surrounding such a practice. Worst of all, male concubines were subjected to abuse because elites were given leeway when it came to their actions toward the men of lower status. Freeborn men were protected from infamia and prosecution in cases of rape or forced passive intercourse under lex scantinia. Yet raping another freeborn was regarded as a severe offense, and it was punishable by the death penalty. Boys would wear a toga praetexta, a symbol of their inviolable position, and a bulla to deter men's curious gaze and prevent the rape of youngsters. On top of that, men of higher social status were permitted to use their slaves as sexual objects, regardless of their age or circumstances of birth, mainly because the body of a slave had no civic protection or power. In essence, it was to be utilized to satisfy the sexual demands of their dominus or dominant. Because of the stigma, the term puer delicatus came into play. It is often applied to a child slave who is used specifically for bodily satisfaction. Such an image is depicted in the famous piece called The Warren Cup. Both sides of the cup show an intimate image of two males. In more extreme circumstances, a pure delicatus might be castrated and disguised in female clothing. This was an odd and depraved attempt to keep toddlers and young men looking feminine and passively beautiful, and to prolong their youthful traits. A move for legislation that finally forbade the castration of a slave against his will for the lust of gain was approved by the Senate in response to the expanding traffic of slaves for sexual enjoyment, particularly the trade in eunuch slaves and pure delicatus during the early empire. Ancient Greece and gender neutrality. Gender neutrality also played a big part in the existence of male concubines. The ancient Greeks kept themselves occupied and had access to a wide variety of jobs, diversions, and entertainment. They were kept out of the house by going to the markets of the agora, serving on juries, attending sporting events, or witnessing the newest play. Also, there are a lot of events to observe, such as processions, drinking events, and religious rites. There's also a big difference between Athens and Sparta, and despite sharing the same heritage, the way of life in the two cities is not the same. The word Spartan, which is also used today to denote someone who leads an austere life and is indifferent to pleasures and luxury, originates from the Spartans. These people are considered warriors, disciplined and powerful, and always prepared to die for their motherland. On the other hand, those who were not soldiers are educated Athenians. They are philosophers, politicians, playwrights of tragedies and comedies, musicians and sculptors. While I pointed out the differences in the way they live, Athenians and Spartans shared a common trait. Both prefer to indulge in pressure. Concerning this, Greeks didn't bother about gender as much as we do today. Most people accept the concept of gender fluidity. This is great evidence of Greek writings and the existence of Greek gods. Because of this, it was not uncommon for men to dress like women in ancient Greek culture. Even Zeus, the king of the gods and supreme ruler of Mount Olympus, has been known to engage in cross-dressing. By all accounts, he was a men's man, but he had a bad habit of accumulating lovers, and these lovers were not limited to women. The line between male and female wasn't a big deal before. There's even a designated god for gender neutrality. Hermaphroditus, who was depicted as a female figure with male genitalia, has long been a symbol of androgyny or effeminacy. He was once a gorgeous young man who caught the attention of a nymph. She pleaded to be united with him, and the gods heard her, uniting their two bodies into one. His name, Hermaphroditus, is a combination of the names of the gods Hermes, the winged messenger, and Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. After him, the term hermaphrodite was coined. Because of this, there is no stigma when it comes to same-sex relationships. The ancient Greeks did not look at the physical aspects of their partner, but rather focused on the role they played in the relationship. However, despite this, marriage and unions between males were not socially accepted, especially after Christianity was introduced to the country. Introduction to Christianity. Although same-sex marriage was never recognized by Roman law as a valid union, it was quite widespread throughout the early imperial era. This is the same as in ancient Greece. One such instance occurred in the early 3rd century AD, when the eccentric and debauched Emperor Elagabalus was reported to have wed a male athlete named Zoticus in a formal wedding ceremony in Rome. As opinions toward same-sex relationships evolved through time, so did the empire's religious identity. The monotheistic new religion of Christianity superseded the polytheistic pagan gods such as Jupiter and Mars, and its influence expanded throughout the classical world. The Codex Theodosianus, created by Christian emperors in the 4th century AD, included legal restrictions against the practice of gay marriage. Any form of homosexual behavior was declared contrary to nature and made illegal throughout the Eastern Empire under Justinian I. By this time, Christianity had already become the Byzantine Empire's dominant religion, with its ideals serving as common law and influencing society's cultural outlooks. Soon after, people of the same sex were forbidden to be in a relationship. As a result, taking in male concubines was forbidden, and the practice was demolished. Honestly, this is the only silver lining from the introduction of religion back then. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below and make sure to like and subscribe for more stories from history. See you!